Welcome to this week's yearly cycle updates. We are wrapping up the Feast of Tabernacles as I'm recording this right now on Friday, October the 9th, 2020. This is the seventh and final day of the 7-day period of the Feast of Tabernacles. Remember, the Feast of Tabernacles is the seventh feast of Israel. It's a time to rejoice. It's a fall harvest festival where we rejoice and we remember that God is tabernacling with us. He's living on the inside with us. He's present all the time. Never will he leave us or forsake us. He is with us all the time. He's with us in the everyday moments of our lives. Now, tonight, as we get into the evening of tonight, on Friday night, we move into what's called the 8th day. There was an 8th day of the Feast of Tabernacles called the last great day. So when we finish this 7th day, the yearly cycle comes to completion. The 8th day, which is tomorrow, is a new beginning. The yearly cycle starts anew again. Now, in the 8th day, it says the last great day. The 8th day is a reminder that God wants to create a new beginning in our lives. He wants to make our lives new. He wants to give us a new beginning. So the 8th day is a reminder of God's grace, that he wants to give us a new beginning, and it's called the last great day. He wants to make us great. So recently, I've just finished the book, The 8th Day. You see, this is a proof copy of it here. And this book took me a while to get to completion, and there was a lot of delays in the process, but as it turns out, it looks like tomorrow on the 8th day, the 8th date book is going to be published. That's just a little insight into how amazing God's timing is. And one of the concepts we talk about in here, we're talking about the last day, the 8th day, is God wants to make you great. Now, Jesus talked a lot about in the Gospels about what it means to be great in the kingdom of heaven. And he gives us some key principles of what it means to be great in the kingdom of heaven. Number one, he says, if you want to be great in the kingdom of heaven, you must humble yourself and become like the little child. So the combination of humility and childlike faith that just believes that anything is possible with God. Like I always like to say, never forget a very simple faith, just a very simple faith that believes that anything is possible with God. That's key number one to greatness. Key number two is found in Psalms 18, I believe 35. David says, God's right hand supported me and his gentleness made me great. Gentleness is a key to greatness. Working through the years as a personal trainer, I've seen that the physical human body always responds to a more gentle approach. People want to use a very harsh, very hard approach with the body, but a very gentle approach always works better. Gentleness leads to greatness. Then Jesus says, if you want to be great in the kingdom of heaven, you must practice and teach the commandments. So number one, we must put them into practice. What is the commandment? That we would love one another. What's the commandment we talk about in the 8th date book? About giving people the same grace that God is giving you, which means that we don't retaliate at people. We don't withdraw from them. We don't give them the silent treatment. We don't avoid people or withdraw our presence. We give them the same grace that God has given us, where he's doing continually good for us all the time, and he wants to make us great. And we give people that same grace. So we have to put that into practice into the everyday moments of our lives and all of our relationships. We got to put that into practice, and then we need to teach it to other people. If we want to be great, we must begin to teach. Because at a certain level, you can only grow so far on your own. At a certain level, the only way to continue to get to the next level, and there's always another level, the only way to get to the next level at a certain point is to begin to teach others and begin to multiply into others what you've learned. Then Jesus says, if you want to be great in the kingdom, you must become the servant of many. So we got to have childlike faith that believes that nothing is impossible. Realize that God is taking a gentle approach with us, and let that gentleness work through us and begin to take a more gentle approach with other people. I got to begin to put his standard of grace into practice in my life, where I'm not retaliating, I'm not withdrawing my presence, I'm not avoiding people, even when they push my buttons. And then I got to begin to practice that, and then I got to begin to teach that to others, and I got to become the servant of many. That's how we become great in God's kingdom. Now, for those of you in the Abundant Life Blueprint, we just actually finished going through the training over the last 8 or 9 weeks on this book, The Eighth Day. So we've gone over quite a bit about how to bring God and his grace into the everyday moments of our lives so that his grace is empowering us in everything that we do. Now, in the next week here, we're going to be getting into some new training. We're going to be getting into some new teaching on another book that's going to be coming out that I have called Pockets of Prosperity, God's Blueprint for Thriving Communities. And in this course, this book, we're going to be talking about the practical blueprints for life. We're going to be starting with finances, then we're going to be progressing through family and order, then we're going to go into health and time, and then we're going to go into purpose and community. We're going to talk about taking everything we've gone over from the spiritual growth aspects found in the miracle year and 7 Days with Jesus. We're going to talk about the mindset and emotional keys that we covered in Cracking Heaven's Code. Then we're going to be talking about the grace keys that we learned in the Eighth Day, and we're going to be wrapping all of them together to create a balanced life, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, grace, and then practical skills in the practical areas of life like finances and health and relationships and these types of things. So we're going to be getting into that training. But our first training today, we're going to be talking about one of the big things I want you to take away from this week is the difference between bricks and stones. If you study the Bible, you're going to find a theme that God hates bricks. You see, the Israelite people, they were in Egypt making bricks. They were treated as slaves and they were making bricks. When people build the Tower of Babel, the first thing they say is, hey, let's make bricks. And God destroys both of those things. 1 Peter, it says that we are all like living stones being built into a spiritual house. God prefers to build his house with stones rather than bricks. What's the difference? Bricks are all the same. They're conformed to a mold and they're made by man. Whereas stones are all unique and they are made by God. So one of the big concepts we're going to be going over in this Pockets of Prosperity. How do we build thriving communities? One of the biggest keys I want you to take away from all of it is finding what makes you unique. The Bible talks about don't be conformed to the pattern of this world. God wants to be accentuating the things that make us unique. He wants to help us to find our unique gifting and contributing that gift, contributing those unique gifts that he gave us to the community and building a community that's based around trust where everyone's contributing their gift and we can trust that people are doing their job and holding each other accountable and these types of things. So that's some of the concepts we're going to be talking about as we get into this training in the Abundant Life Blueprint. But tomorrow, I believe this book, The Eighth Day, will be available on Amazon. I'm just waiting for the links to be going live. It looks like the way God has timed it out, the book is coming out, of all things, on the 8th day, the last great day. God's timing is just amazing sometimes. So be looking out for that book. For those of you in the Abundant Life Blueprint, we're going to get into this training on the Pockets of Prosperity. I'm going to pull up the slides here.